I just received this excessively detailed and overly polite video request, so I thought, why not make a video on CPTSD and solve all of your trauma once and for all in about 15 to 20 minutes. Although I've got over 600 trauma psychology books in this library, I thought that these 5 books will do, so let's go into those 5 books together, and I'm sure that we can indeed solve all of the specific nuances of your particular trauma without any additional information in a single YouTube video. It's impossible. It's impossible even if I received the most precise question about make a video on CPTSD as it relates to my continual failed relationships and my anxiety attacks, or make a video on CPTSD as it relates to my feeling of not feeling safe in the world and not being able to hold down a job, make a video on CPTSD in relation to whatever the symptoms might be. We can explore the origin of pain. We can explore the difficult dynamics of childhood. But anything that I could possibly do in a single video, even the 5 books I'm going to recommend you read in your own time, they're not going to come close to the core of healing a very complex and very multifaceted issue. I'm going to do the best I can in a single video to give you something practical, which is a focus on one key theme, the theme of belonging, because fundamentally someone who's suffered trauma and agony, alienation, abandonment, or another damaging situation using normally their parents or sometimes a family member, but whatever the situation might be for you, there's a lack of belonging, and the 3-stage process to heal CPTSD within your day-to-day reality this week is to focus on belonging in your body, belonging in the world, and belonging in your relationships. I can't cover all the nuance of nervous system repair and healing the attachment wounds of the past in a single video, but we're going to return to this theme of belonging to hopefully give you something that's worth the next 15 to 20 minutes. I recommend that you pick up a copy of Complex PTSD by Pete Walker. This is encyclopedic. There are 14 chapters broken down into minutiae, page by page. I'll give you an example of what the chapter headings look like just there. You will see pretty much every major issue and theme that you can imagine for CPTSD broken down in a very accessible manner. This is the encyclopedic foundation. You can also read a book like The Inner World of Trauma by Donald Kalscher. This is a focus on dissociation. If you want a transpersonal perspective that has more of a spiritual aspect, which is particularly useful if you have a soulful part of you, you can read some Stanislav Grof. This is holotropic, but also wider transpersonal psychology. If you want some somatic therapy, you can read In an Unspoken Voice by Peter Levine. And if you want to go a little bit deeper into your nervous system, pick up something like The Polyvagal Theory in Therapy by Deb Danner. I don't know if that came up because I do not like dust jackets. I think they look unaesthetic on the library shelves, so I'll show you just this. Polyvagal Theory in Therapy by Deb Danner. These are 5 books of around 1,200, 1,300 pages. You can take 2 months to read them. It'll cost you, I don't know, $110 to $130 on a website of your choosing. If you buy them new, you could probably buy them secondhand. Just get the books. Get the books. Break the habit of YouTube. Heal yourself. I say it in every video. Nonetheless, let's do the actual video itself, which is focused on belonging, and hopefully you see what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to give you the resources so that you have something that lasts and something that you can actually heal yourself slowly over time, and you break this pattern of bonding with strangers on the internet or otherwise searching around for digital therapists or digital coaches and healers rather than just going to the absolute masters who spent decades working on their careers and writing a book. I very, very humbly place myself below their expertise because I do not have as much experience as them, and the 5 books will do more than I can in a single video. Please, once again, pick up those 5 books, especially Complex PTSD by Pete Walker. Fantastic foundation. Now let's get into the YouTube video to answer this question. And again, please, if you have a specific comment about CPTSD, please put it down here so I can make a more focused video, which helps me to make a more focused, energetic response. I can't do more than speak in generalizations and ambiguities when I'm given a generalization and an ambiguity, but let's focus on belonging. Belonging is something that you can really build now. Belonging in your body, belonging in the world, and belonging in relationships. I could spend the next 3 minutes giving you a variety of symptomatic pat on the back or a round of applause, then I do indeed understand you, and I understand what it feels like to go through a traumatic upbringing, or I understand what it feels like to have the anxiety or the depression, the feelings of intense terror, or maybe alienation from your own flesh. I could weave out that story and give you lots of emotions, but if you've genuinely got CPTSD-like symptoms, you don't need me to re-trigger a memory of the fact that yes, life is indeed quite difficult on a quite frequent basis. So I'm not going to go down that, I think, frankly, distracting avenue of listing out a variety of emotions. If you know that you've got trauma, let's just skip straight towards the stage of how to heal the trauma, or at least shift yourself over multiple months and multiple years towards a more healed, more grounded, no high highs, no low lows, more love and joy in your own body kind of mood. Focus on belonging in your body first. This is where you need somatic therapy, you need bioenergetic release, and you need fundamentally to not be poisoning yourself on a day-to-day basis. Stop drinking, stop smoking, stop consuming so much junk food. Don't do it. Stop spending so much time on the screen. Stop spending so much time binge watching YouTube videos, no matter how entertaining or how many books the man may appear to have on the YouTube video. Just stop. Stop poisoning your body. You won't want to belong in a body that suffered abuse and damage in the past if you are perpetuating the abuse and the damage with all of these small choices which harm your well-being. I'm going on 5 years sober. Next month I will be 5 years sober from drink and drugs, and I try to eat as clean and organic a diet as possible because my own particular history of massive dissociation and very heavy depression and feelings of alienation from my own flesh, which I've discussed elsewhere, can't be healed in a day-to-day basis if I'm repeating the same exact conditions of not belonging in my body. If you're giving yourself reasons to leave your body because you're hurting your body, don't expect things to change. Don't expect that these books could help you if you're still hurting yourself. There's a shame conversation, I get it. There's a conversation around, well, what if I don't feel like I'm worthy of treating myself well? With the greatest sense of love and direct compassion I can possibly say, just get over yourself. It doesn't matter what you feel. It doesn't matter how much love you think you deserve. Just be loving anyway. Just do the loving things anyway. Just don't buy the things and bring them into your home. Just hold the boundary. There's nuanced conversation, there's complex conversation. I've done it elsewhere in videos on this channel. But you don't need to follow an emotion just because the emotion's strong. You can hold a boundary objectively in a detached way. You can keep something out of your life with willpower and with the grace of God if you're religiously inclined or soulfully inspired. There are deeper energy stores that you can draw upon than your own moods and emotions. And it's not me attacking you. I'm really not trying to get at you. It's just that strong energy of you can do better and you can just do it. You can just hold the boundary. If you hold the boundary, you'll feel like you belong in your body on the other side of stacking the positive behaviors. Second point, if you want belongingness and healing from CPTSD, again, healing the old abandonment wounds and feelings of alienation from the world, you need to have a place of belonging within the world. For people who've gone through extremely intense versions of CPTSD where maybe they returned from combat, from seeing something which is particularly devastating, or multiple instances of very, very, very extreme abuse, I understand that a video like this will not be enough, but no video will be enough. You need immediate professional support. If you're in a situation where you had chronic low to medium grade trauma, maybe arguing parents, maybe one parent who is physically or otherwise abusive, maybe some kind of particularly devastating situation in your home country, whatever that might have been, if that's safely in the past, 20 or 30 years in the past, and you're still feeling the symptoms, belonging in the world is one of the greatest anchors that you can really lean into. If you have work that you enjoy, and you have a role, you have responsibilities, you give yourself so many reasons to update your self-identity, which also updates and informs your nervous system. There's a conversation about what comes first, the thought or the feeling. Are the feelings from the past merely creating the thoughts that come up in the present? There's different perspectives to take there. It's a full conversation in itself. I'm trying to be general and I'm trying to also be specific. You can't change everything overnight, but you can stack the deck in your favor. If you have work that you enjoy on 8 out of 10 rating, on 8 out of 10 days that you work per month, I imagine you'll work more than 10 days per month, but imagining just that 80% threshold of enjoying the work that you do, it is much easier to feel a sense of belonging in the world because you actually have a role. Other people are affirming and mirroring, yes, you have this role and I appreciate you. You have something meaningful. If you're stuck in a dead-end job, or you're otherwise drifting through unemployment, or you're moving around and you're just focused on getting healthcare, which is important at a certain stage, but if you're just in that purely healing energy where it's all about you and all about your trauma, I'm not trying to attack you, all about you, all about your trauma, and you're not doing anything for anyone else, it becomes very black hole-like. The energy becomes very insular, and if you've ever encountered someone who's in a really desperate state, they're very clutchy in their energy because they're desperate. And if you don't want to feel like a desperate person, stop taking so much from the world and see what you can give, even if it's just the small giving of volunteering once a week for an hour or two at a local charity, or just showing up a little bit more at work to help a colleague, or maybe your boss in one way or another in a way that feels inspiring and gives you strength of character. That strength of character aspect will give you a feeling of belonging in the world. And you can see I'm stumbling all over the place because I know that a topic like CPTSD is going to attract a variety of people from the most extreme horrific situations and backgrounds that are truly heartbreaking to describe, the most unstable and violent mood swings, all the way towards kind of a difficult background, but someone who's more or less in control in the day-to-day, but they've got a very difficult past and it's all repressed and they're exploring it at depth multiple years into the journey. I need specific questions to calibrate my consciousness, and I can't calibrate my consciousness in a completely therapeutic manner without knowing you personally. So if anything I've said at this point in the video feels like it missed the mark and it's completely uncalibrated, that's why. That's also the nature of any kind of therapeutic or self-development video on YouTube. It's why on larger channels, generally speaking, you'll see more ambiguities and more generalizations and that same emotional symptom management kind of approach. It's because it's easier, and there's also not much more that you can do when speaking to wider audiences. Just a little bit of information for you to take with you when you go and watch the next YouTube video, rather than picking up the 5 books I just recommended. These 5 books, especially this book, are really going to do you well. Let's focus on the final point. You now belong in your body, and you belong in your body because, let's imagine the scenario, okay? Paint it out. You belong in your body because you stopped hurting your body, you don't take into things, you don't buy into situations which harm your flesh. You have belonging in the world, second point, belonging in the world after belonging in your body, because you're doing something, you're giving something, you're creating something. These are going to create safety in your nervous system, which cannot be achieved through years of therapy alone, because therapy is an isolated environment. In most cases, you're having a relationship with your therapist or the group that you're in, or even with the books that you're reading, an autotherapeutic state. You still need to be in the world and in your flesh. You can't bypass belonging in body and world, and you also can't bypass belonging in relationship. One of the major issues for people who've gone through CPTSD or still struggling with PTSD-like symptoms is that they really often have a variety of responses in regards to attachment. But you've heard of things like anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, disorganized attachment, or otherwise having different fight, flight, fawn, and freeze responses. These are all interpersonal neurobiology terms based on John Bowlby's work in the 50s and the 60s, expanding through over the last 60 or 70 years of therapeutic psychological research. Fundamentally, if you have issues relating to people, the way to get belonging, true belonging, is to form healthy relationships with people. That's easy to say, but it's difficult to do. And it means focusing on friendships, family, and your romantic partners. There's an entire conversation, there's an entire library of information that I would need to go into how to have the best possible romantic relationships, or really soulful group dynamics and healthy, conscious social dynamics of your friends all coming together and everyone feeling belonging. And I can't cover it in a single video, but you need to focus on this issue, because this is where the whole video comes together. And this is the final point. And if you're still here, still watching this, this is where it all leads to. I truly believe, based on my work with clients, based on my own personal healing journey, that these three aspects of belonging, in your body, in the world, and in relationships, all three of them are needed to a healthy enough degree to feel safe and secure. If you belong in your body and you belong in the world, but you don't have a romantic partner or close friends or no significant family relationships that matter to you, you're going to feel lonely, you're going to feel isolated, and you're likely going to feel alienated from what really matters based on what your heart wants, which is close connections to a small number of people. If you have belonging in the relationships and belonging in your body, but no belonging in the world, you're going to feel probably a little bit better because you've got more love in your life. You've got a husband or a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, maybe great relationships with your children, but you don't feel like you extend out into the wider environment. And for people who've suffered from PTSD, usually they have this feeling of wanting to shrink away from the world, and the actual exposure therapy perspective of going out into the world and making a little bit of a difference is the major healing step which can't be bypassed. You'll always have this feeling of cautiousness, like you're being protective, and it's very subtle. It's a very subtle feeling of you're kind of in a routine, a day-to-day routine where your body's healthy, and maybe you're going to the supermarket, but you don't really extend out into the world. You're kind of energetically sealed in. This is a much healthier place to be than terrified of the world, but it's a low-grade hesitation to enter the world if you don't belong there. An alternative example, if you don't belong in your body, but you do belong in the world and you do belong in your relationships, maybe you're morbidly obese or chronically underweight, maybe you're drinking every night, you're smoking cigarettes, any degree of self-pollution, you might feel like you're in the world, and that's fantastic. You've got jobs and responsibilities. You might feel like you belong in the relationships. That's also fantastic. But you're fundamentally unhealthy. You're going to feel bad no matter what, because you're not going to be sleeping well, you're not going to be recovering, and your body will literally be devitalized and sick. If you don't heal your body with good, healthy habits, you cannot, even the most supportive husband or wife, the best children you could imagine, who really light up your heart, and a really meaningful role in society, whatever scale you want that to be, they're not going to take away the feeling of either, you can't get up a set of stairs without being winded, you're chronically fatigued, you're relying on stimulants and substances. You need all three. I've elaborated in a way which is maybe convoluted and entirely unnecessary, but you need your body, you need the world, and you need relationships. They all blend together at a certain point, and if you have a holistic approach towards healing your own childhood trauma, hopefully what I've tried to share in this video will land. It is a messy video, but I'm trying to be honest with you. It's really frustrating to try and make general videos, and although I made fun at the very beginning of this being a sophisticated and very polite question on just make a video on CPTSD, if I do have more nuance and I do have more specificity, the risk that I run is I make a very particular video for a very particular type of person. It feels almost like therapy through a YouTube video directed towards that particular person, or maybe directed towards you, but then I lose the wider audience, and this is why you naturally encounter the limitations of working with one particular digital therapeutic figure, and also why I've recommended 5 different books, because these are 5 different perspectives from 5 different teachers, and you will resonate with them for different issues. Maybe you'll read something like Polyvagal Theory in Therapy and In an Unspoken Voice by Peter Levine. I'm holding them up again so you get another visual stimulus and you go and buy the books yourselves. That will help with your body. And then something in a wider perspective like Complex PTSD will help with all 3. And if you're looking at dissociation and connection and belonging in the world, you can read these 2 books together. You need all 3 of them, all 5 of them over all 3 categories. It's a long, patient journey. CPTSD is something which runs deep. I haven't been able to cover even the actual depth of pain and the actual hope of healing and what that looks like. But I've struggled my way through, and I hope that you've received some powerful or otherwise practical information nonetheless. Once again, leave a comment in the comment section. If you have a specific question, make sure it applies to you and would apply to other people, and I can make much more targeted, much more focused, more directed videos in the future. Nonetheless, next video is over here, and hopefully it's a little bit more directed, but if it's general, then we work in the broad. We will find out, and I'll see you over here.